So let's talk about this shift in consciousness, waking up. Obviously, a lot of people have been feeling it over the past few months. You talk about shadow work on your site, but let's dive into people that have that desire that you talk about of wanting to uncover these old belief systems, these old traumas, in order to ascend. What if you see yourself getting triggered over and over again? You're aware of it, but you can't figure out where it came from. Even if you've gone to therapy, even if you've gone to hypnotists, how does one unlock the vaults that seem to be so blocked?
Excellent question. There's no one right answer to this, but I would say that knowing firstly that all suffering is an error in self-perception is the most important thing. So if something triggers me, it's not the external environment, it's not what the person did or said. My suffering is solely dependent on the way I see myself. And Course in Miracles talks a lot about this idea that we look inside of ourselves first and decide how we want to see ourselves, and then project that world outside of us. And then we believe what we're seeing is actually there, right? Oh, look at all these mean people saying such mean things to me. Nobody loves me. Nobody accepts me. And it's all in our own imagination. So until you know that you can only suffer at the hands of your own imagination, then you will continue projecting all your problems outside of you, right? So firstly, removing that belief in victimization, that I'm a victim to what happens outside of me, is number one, because then you can look inside and say, all right, what am I seeing in myself that I'm not loving? What part of me am I not giving love to? And we can get into examples of that if you want to give people a little more logistics on it. But yeah, that's kind of where it begins and ends.
Right. So what if someone has been hurt, has been, gone? Because a lot of people will say, like, someone might say, a listener might say, well, I was robbed, or I was, beat up or something, or my ex-husband was abusive. Like, how does someone reconcile that, if they're actually have been the victim of something horrifying?
Right. Well, it has to begin by knowing yourself on the eternal dimension, right? As long as you believe you're just a finite entity, a body, a person living in a world, then you have to keep suffering, because that person believes it's separate, right? Separate from its source, separate from others. So that means everything becomes a potential threat. So forgiveness really is the path to freedom. And forgiveness is often misconstrued to mean overlooking the truth, kind of like you were alluding to, meaning, but that person really did do that thing to me. How can I just overlook that? And that's not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is knowing who you are, and from that reference point, realizing nobody can ever take my value from me. Nobody can ever harm what I am, because I'm an eternal being. So if I believe somebody has stolen some of my value from me, then I require healing in some area of how I see myself. So if I was robbed, for example, projection does not mean I'm causing all the actions of others, which is often how it's misconstrued to mean sometimes. Projection means the way I interpret the actions of others is a reflection on me. So if I hate my attacker, if I seek vengeance against them, that means that inside of myself, I seek vengeance against parts of me. I'm not comfortable with who I am. But on the other hand, if I've seen all those parts of me, the parts of me that are selfish, the parts of me that have stolen from others, and I've forgiven those parts of me and reconciled them, then I can project that same forgiveness onto my attacker. And I can see their actions for what they are. This is a lost person. This is a hurting person. This is a person who doesn't know who they are. And so they're just doing whatever they can in their own means to find peace of mind, to find happiness, whatever they think that is, right? And so if I hold that against them, I'm really just binding myself to the same illusion that they are, right? I'm as insane as they are if I take their actions personally. So when I stop taking the actions of others personally, then I can see them for what they are and actually have compassion on them.
That's the key. And that is, I think, one of the hardest things for people, including myself, to remember is that who I am part. It's when our ego takes us away and, we become identified with our thoughts and our roles and so on and so forth. And that's where I think meditation is so important, to come back to that stillness, to remembering that divine formless spirit that we are. But if you haven't been ever been able to connect to that, is it impossible to do what you said?
Yes. Which is why you can't ever feel guilty, right, for your actions. Like if you attacked somebody in return, if you did anything in your past that you say, I shouldn't have done that. That's actually also a form of insanity, right? Because nobody can behave above their current level of consciousness. So what you have to accept is that everything you've done in your life ever was the best you could have done at that time. And how do we know that that's true? You can just ask yourself the question, is my one true desire at all times simply to be happy and have peace? Everyone on planet Earth says yes, right? We all want to be happy. So that means you're always doing what you think will lead you to happiness. Whether or not it actually does is a totally different story, right? But that's how we spiritually grow. We take actions, they have consequences, we learn, and we integrate that new knowledge into our awareness of self. So whatever you've done in your past, you have to forgive yourself for. But on the flip side of the coin, that also means you must forgive others for their actions as well. And instead of seeing them as evil, you need to see them as simply being ignorant or blind to the truth.